What is going on, peasants? My name is JB and we are back here today with some more Pokemon Unite content. Today we're going to be tier ranking every character in the game post Dragapult release, and I actually haven't done one of these since Zoroark, so it's been quite a while. Took a little bit of a break from playing the game, but we're back in full swing of things now. I'm going to try to get back to daily uploads now that we are in the new year. Hopefully you guys all had a wonderful New Year's Eve. So hope everyone stayed safe and had a fun time. If you partook, or if you were more like me and did a whole lot of nothing all night, hopefully you enjoyed your night at least. Either way, we're going to be ranking these characters and seeing where I think everything stands within the realm of Pokemon Unite. So I think I want to start off with our let's do all the rounders first, because I have kind of a hot take once we get to one of the Pokemon down the board a little bit. So we'll just go alphabetical order. We'll do Aegislash first. So Aegislash, Pokemon I haven't really touched a whole lot lately, but I think it's still pretty good. It does get a little bit messed up by a lot of the CC in the game, but it does have its moments. It did get nerfed a little bit recently. I would say it's probably somewhere in the A- B+ range, maybe trending closer to B. But it's still a character that if you're good on the Pokemon, you're gonna do well with it. You're gonna carry a lot of games with it. So I think it's still worthy of, at the very least, A- to B+, but you could talk me into, moving it down a little bit. Azumarill. I'm going to put Azumarill A tier. There's some people in my Discord community, in my chat, I'll link in the description, by the way, if you want to come hang out in the Discord. We got memes and accounting chat and other stuff that seem to think Azumarill belongs somewhere up here. I think Azumarill is a very fine Pokemon. I think it's really good. I don't think it's anywhere near broken, though. I think there is a lot of counterplay to this Pokemon, including CC, including just fighting it not by yourself. If you fight Azumarill by yourself constantly and you're consistently getting beat by Azumarill in 1v1s, then yeah, it's gonna look really good. But I do think the Water Pulse nerf was not significant enough to the point that the move is unplayable, but significant enough to rein it in a little bit. Water Pulse was a little bit crazy. Aqua Tail is phenomenal, especially with Rapid Fire Scarf. Aqua Tail is just really good. Whirlpool is in a fine place right now, and Play Rough is a move that's weird. I think Play Rough is really good if you like that playstyle. I don't think there's any world where you should be not playing Water Pulse personally, but Play Rough is also a fine move. It's a Pokemon that gets to spam its Unite move a lot. It has a lot of great utility. I'm a big fan of Azumarill. I just don't think it's all that broken. Now, speaking of characters that I don't think are broken but are very, very good right now, I'm going to put Buzzwole also in A. You could talk me into S tier for Buzzwole, obviously. With it being the Battle Pass mod, it has received a little bit of a buff recently, and it is a very, very good quality of life change. The fact that its muscle gauge now builds on wild Pokemon, and that is really massive. It allows you to actually engage in fights at full strength, which is so huge, because oftentimes, especially on Leech Life builds in particular, there wasn't really anything you could do. Like, oftentimes Buzzwole would just get chipped down before you build your gauge up, and then where you were able to actually do damage with Leech Life, you were just dead before you could do anything with it. But now, thankfully, we're not really at that point, because oftentimes you would just have to use it to CC something and hope you'd stay alive, but you really couldn't. But now you can engage in a fight with a full muscle gauge and do a lot of damage with Leech Life's superpower is still really good. Lunge is great. I think this character has an absolutely terrible Unite move. I think its Unite move is one of the worst Unite moves in the game. I think Smackdown is fine, but it's kind of gimmicky. I don't think it's good against a lot of things, but it's a decent move, all things considered. I just think the consistency of Lunge is better. I think Buzzwole is a really weird Pokemon in that it is great for the first like 5 to 6 minutes of the game, but it falls off a cliff late game. But there is something to be said for being really good throughout the game, and hopefully your teammates can carry the raid fight, because Buzzwole is atrocious in raid fight. Unless you're really able to catch out a squishy earlier and just delete a carry, you're kind of just a sitting duck, because like I said, you have a horrible Unite move. You kind of really have to play like an assassin in raid fight, but like I said, if you're good for the first 8 minutes of the game, there is some sort of a, there is a lot of value in that. But as a game where oftentimes it feels like you yourself have to be a hero and you don't always have great teammates, especially in solo duo trio play, then yeah, it can feel a little bit underwhelming. Speaking of feeling a little bit underwhelming, Charizard, how the mighty have fallen. I think Char is borderline C tier. It's borderline C tier. I don't think it's that bad though, because it does still have great auto attacks. The problem with Zard is they kind of just neutered this thing's Unite move. And it's still a really good Unite move, and it definitely needed nerfs, but I feel like it was maybe a little bit too much. Fire Punch, Flare Blitz is actually a pretty cool build for stuns, but Charizard isn't really a Pokemon that wants to be fighting up close like that. I think it's in a fine place, and I think, you know, maybe a small tweak to make giving its Unite move a little bit more damage somehow without making it overpowered like it used to be could be cool, but I think it's pretty bad. Dragonite. I'm putting Dragonite in buffs, please, and this really hurts as someone who's a humongous fan of Dragonite. I think it's honestly pretty bad right now, and the buffs, please tier is specifically not called the D tier for a reason, because I don't think Dragonite is inherently bad. I just think the way Dragonite is played is bad, because I think Outrage is one of the single worst builds in the entire game. I think Outrage Dragonite is absolutely horrible, and I'm seeing even more people play Extreme Speed now with Outrage too, which is just why Extreme Speed is literally the worst move in the game. I know I said Outrage is one of the worst builds in the game. Extreme Speed is literally the worst attack in the game besides maybe Trevenant and Pain Split. It's that bad. That's how bad Extreme Speed is. But Hyper Beam is just not strong right now in the meta. There's a lot of tanky Pokemon. There's you know, a lot of weird things, just a lot of weird targeting things with people. It's harder to secure Ray with this meta. It's just not really a secure meta, and that's where Dragonite excelled. I think maybe giving Hyper Beam a little bit more damage, maybe giving Dragonite a little bit more range, maybe giving its autos a little bit more range, something like that could help. Or maybe actually making Outrage good. That might also help. There's literally no reason to play Outrage when this Pokemon exists. When this Pokemon exists. When any of these three Pokemon exist. When, you know, something like a Mamoswine exists. When Machamp exists. When Tyranitar exists. When Serena exists. There is literally no reason to play Outrage. All of these Pokemon have close brawly moves that do more damage and don't stun you. Outrage is ass. Stop playing it. Or they need to buff it. They need to do something to fix Outrage, but it's trash. Outrage is trash. Speaking of Pokemon that have been trash for a long time, but aren't at the moment, Garchomp. I think Garchomp is actually really good. It's borderline A tier for me. I'm going to put it in A- B+ because it does still have a lot of the same problems as it always has, in that it is just kind of like you can still just kind of walk away from Garchomp, but if Garchomp catches anything, if you catch something with Garchomp, it's dead. Personally, I love Garchomp, and I like to say I'm very good with Garchomp. So it is a Pokemon that absolutely excels in brawling, in, you know, killing things. Rapid Fire Scarf was such a huge addition to this Pokemon. I think it's in a really good place right now. So big fan of Garchomp. I think it's solidly in like the middle tiers, A- B+ range. I think that's fine. Who's the next all-arounder? That would be Lucario. I think Lucario is also in the same range. Power Up Punch and Extreme Speed are both really good right now. Close Combat's fine. Bone Rush is probably still good. I don't know how to play it. It's just other characters are, you know, a little bit better throughout the game. Lucario's still a menace early, still great for securing. It's just not as good as it has been at, you know, just being a beast throughout the game. Doesn't quite have the same damage output as it used to, but it's still a phenomenal Pokemon. It can still get the job done with ease. Machamp. I think Machamp is probably closer to A- B+ than it is B. But I'm going to put it in B, I think. Mostly just because it's kind of just worse Buzzwole in a way. Kind of just worse Azumarill in a way. It's Unite move. The nerfs to, or the global changes to Unite moves really hurt Machamp, as it doesn't really have the same attack speed or just attack damage that it used to. Yeah, it's just not as good as it used to be, but still quite fine. I think, you know, Machamp's fine. It's nothing great. It's nothing special. It's not bad by any means, but it's just, you know, it's not the best. Scizor, though, I think Scizor is quite good. I think Scizor is really good. I'm gonna put it A- B+. I think with I forget what it is, the Rescue Hood, if that's the item I think of, one of the new items coming out that have been leaked. I think Scizor is gonna be broken with it, but Scizor is like it's a sustained demon. I think it's probably better than Lucario right now. Yeah, I think Scizor is quite good. And I think it's, you know, very strong, has great sustain, great early game, good stacking, really good in team fights. The one problem with Scizor is its Unite move. It's another character with just a really bad Unite move. But the rest of his kit is great. I think it's a little bit better, a little bit more consistent in Ray Fight than Buzzwole. So that's why I'm going to give it the, you know, the respect and putting it on the same level as Buzzwole. So we'll do that. Scyther, we'll talk about Scyther with Speedsters. Next all-arounder is going to be Serena. Serena's suffered nerf after nerf after nerf, but it's still good. I think Serena's still one of the best characters in the game. It's borderline S-tier for me still. Triple Axel's good. All of its moves are good. I just think Serena is still great. Tyranitar. T-Tar. Where do we want to put you, my friend? Where do we want to put T-Tar? We can put T-Tar in... I think T-Tar's also an A-tier Pokemon. The problem with Tyranitar is that it's just such a late game Pokemon. Like, Larvitar is fine. Pupitar is one of the weakest middle games in the entire game, and that's sometimes it can be very, very hard to farm mid game. I think, you know, just level 5 to 9 is really, really, really bad on T-Tar. But if you can manage to get your level 9 early, if you jungle with this Pokemon, I think it's great. It has probably the best late game in the entire game with its, you know, just sheer tankiness, the shields it can give itself, still a really good Unite move. And yeah, all right. Moving on to Urshifu. We'll do, I have 2 of them. So we'll do water build is going to be the one looking to the left, and then dark build is the one to the right. So single strike Urshifu. I think single strike Urshifu is probably, I think it's cool. It's definitely better than it was. I just don't think it's anything special. Its Unite move is still kind of bad. Its shield from liquidation isn't insane. I think it's fine. I don't know. C feels a little bit low. I'll go ahead and put it there. I'll put it in B tier. I don't think it's amazing by any means, but it's a little bit better. I know, here's my hottest take. I know a lot of people think this Pokemon is broken. Single strike Urshifu. Was I saying single strike? This is rapid strike. I was trying to talk about rapid strike. If I was the water one, it's I don't know. The dashes are good. The shield is fine. The Unite move's still kind of trash. I think both of these Pokemon, Kubfu has one of the worst early games in the game. I think Kubfu is absolutely terrible. And I don't think Urshifu single strike is all that good either. I think it's probably a B tier Pokemon. I just really don't like it. I don't like the fact that, yeah, you can do just frankly stupid damage with Wicked Blow if you hit it. The problem is you have absolutely no mobility on the character, just absolutely none. It's super easy to avoid getting caught by a Wicked Blow if you're paying attention to where the Urshifu is coming from. So you kind of have to play it like an assassin, but you're an assassin with really, really, really terrible mobility. Throat Chop is okay for that, but I mean, it's in B tier solely because if you hit a big move, then you do damage. And its Unite combo, it's actually kind of hard to get the push. If you do manage to land the push, it can be useful. And just knocking up one single target into, like, Unite comboing into Wicked Blow can be good, but there is like that window of time where you're charging your Wicked Blow and they land. They can just walk back from your Wicked Blow after your Unite move and you miss your Wicked Blow because you just have such poor movement with Wicked Blow. I think the simplest buff that would actually make Wicked Blow probably, you know, up here where a lot of people think it is just make it so you can eject combo it. Just make it so you can eject combo it. That's all you need, or at least Throat Chop combo with it. Actually making it Throat Chop comboable would be literally broken. But if you could at least eject combo, then yeah, it would be phenomenal. But you can't do that, so I think it's pretty bad personally. But just for the raw damage output, I'll give it respect and put it in B tier. Let's move on to speedsters. Absol, I think Absol's in a fine place right now. Psycho Cut's good. Sucker Punch is good. Pursuit's a damn meme, but Night Slash is great. I think Absol's a good early bully. Kind of falls off late game, but if you can, you know, assassinate Squishy and Rayfelt, you'll be doing fine. Next speedster is going to be Dodrio. I think Dodrio is probably our first S tier character. I think Dodrio is still really, really good. The jump kick buffs were very nice. Tri-attack is still decent. It's one of the most annoying Pokemon in the game. I think Dodrio is very good, specifically in uncoordinated play and even in tournament play. I've seen some teams run it, so yeah, it's a very good Pokemon. Gengar, I think Gengar's A-B+ range right now. I think it's fine. Still does a lot of damage. It takes a little while to get going. It's one of the worst laners in the game. Don't lane with this Pokemon, please. Stop throwing games. Actually, I'll rein that in a little bit. I don't think it's completely throwing in lane, but I still think it's, you know, not the best. You know, they've reined in its damage to the point that it's not, you know, one-shotting literally every character in the game. So I think it's a fine character. Just, I think there are better junglers around. I think there are better speedsters around. So put it there. Talonflame, I think Talonflame is kind of terrible. I am a notorious Talonflame hater, and most people who know me know that. So fuck it, I'm putting Talonflame in C tier. I think Talonflame is pretty bad. I think Talonflame has by far the worst player base, the worst base of players in the entire game. I don't think there are really any good Talonflame players, except for my boy Colin. What's up, bro? There are no good Talonflame players. 99 out of 100 Talonflame players only play for scoring and back caps, and they're literally useless. They're the most useless teammates in the game. I think the character itself, Brave Bird just doesn't do enough damage. It's super weak to CC. Fly, well, Brave Bird does okay damage, but you're just stunned and you're dead afterwards because of how tanky the meta is at the moment. Or, you know, stuff like Dodrio just runs away from you. And then Fly, you know, again, faster stuff, just runs away from you. Fly definitely doesn't do enough burst damage to be viable. T9 moves okay. Other than that, it's just kind of whatever. I realized I skipped Scyther because I said I was going to do it with Speedster. Scyther is S tier. Scyther is ridiculous. The amount of just raw burst damage you can do with dual wing beat, comboed with your Unite move, just absolutely nutty. I think Scyther is great. Yeah, super good Pokemon right now. It's still the only Pokemon I've never made a video on. That's because I have no idea how to play it, but I've started to learn. I'm starting to learn Scyther a little bit, and I want to try to get some sick gameplay with it before it gets neutered, because I think that's going to come sooner rather than later. I think Scyther is absolutely insane. Maybe one of the best Unite moves in the game, and Dual Wing Beat is absolutely ridiculous. Just completely shreds squishies, and if you can figure out how to land resets, you can just completely wipe teams with Scyther. So I think it's a phenomenal Pokemon. Zera, I'm putting Zera. I'm going to put it in B tier just because it is better in lane than Talonflame, but I don't think it's by far. I don't think it's that much better. I think Zera is honestly, it's pretty bad. But the thing with Zeraora is, you know, it always comes back to its level up moves with it. The fact that it's still a, what is it, 6, 8, 9 when it gets its attacks. If Zeraora stays the way it is right now, and they give it a 5, 7, 9 level up curve, it's going to be absolutely broken. Like getting Discharge at level 7 the way it is currently, broken. Getting Wild Charge the way it is right now at level 7, broken. So you have to rein in its damage if you want to do that, and then it becomes a worse Pokemon. So I really don't know how you balance Zeraora personally. I think it's got a good Unite move, but you don't get it to level 9, which is like most Pokemon. I think it's fine, but I just think there are way better junglers. And if I'm gonna play a Pokemon in lane, I'd rather play, you know, any of these all-arounders. So that's what Zeraora is. Like, you can definitely win with it. It's just there are better options, which is, you know, like most things. I think Zoroark is terrible. I'll say that outright. I think Zoroark is borderline bad. Well, let me rephrase that in context to the rest of the characters in the game, because I think every character, I don't think there are truly any like bad characters in the game. Probably should have prefaced this at the beginning, which is why that's, you know, labeled cool and not stop throwing tier. I think Zoroark is good on first gank. That's what I always thought Zoroark was, even on release. I think Zoroark was really good coming out of jungle, and then complete trash for the rest of the game. Zoroark, it's weird though. It is completely useless for the most part from like level, or from like first Reggie to Ray. I think it's pretty useless from 7 minutes to 2 minutes, but it's good, you know, the first 3 minutes, and it's actually pretty decent in Ray fight. Like, it's a good assassin in Ray fight. You can make some plays with it. I just don't think it's a good team fighter at all. I think it's, you know, people do play it well. I've ran into some good Zoroarks. I just don't think the character is good. I think it's super weak to stuns. I think it's dead to anything that touches it, pretty much. It's a super glass cannon, and I don't think it's that great. Let's move on to defenders next. We'll do Blastoise. I think Blastoise is the definition of a solid Pokemon. It's never going to be bad, but it's not the top of the meta right now. And if it's not the top of the meta, like, Blastoise is either, you know, way up here or just kind of here. It's never bad. So yeah, I think Blastoise is just fine where it is. I mean, it pumps out good damage, has good CC, still one of the better Unite moves in the game. Just, you know, it's a very solid, good Pokemon. Crustle, I love Crustle, I really do, but it kind of has Talonflame syndrome, wherein that the Crustle player base, however non-existent it is absolutely terrible. It's a lot like Talonflame in that no one who plays Crustle actually helps the team. No one who plays Crustle is anywhere near a team fight. No one who plays Crustle does anything other than try to score, when Crustle is actually very good in team fights. The problem is it's just not a tank. It has a phenomenal Unite move. X-Scissor is great crowd control. Rock Tomb is actually also really good crowd control, but Shell Smash is also phenomenal. Stealth Arc is good for stealing objectives. I think Exeter plus its Unite move are great. I just think the character is played completely wrong. And that's mostly a player-based thing rather than the character itself. I think, in all actuality, Crustlet is probably a B-tier Pokemon. But if I'm going to judge Talonflame based on the player base, then I'll do the same for Crustlet, because Crustlet players are terrible. Greedent is always going to be good. A good Greedent is just dominant. It's another character that's not a defender, but the Greedents who know what they're doing, which is a better, like, the Greedent player base is generally better than the Crustlet player base. So the character, it's still at a point where it doesn't die, but it's not completely stupid to the point that it's, you know, deal withable. So I think, you know, Greedent's quite good. I actually, you know, the more I look at it and where I'm going to put other Pokemon, I think Greedent is probably like an A+ character, probably the top of this tier if we were ranking them against each other, but we're not. So yeah, Greedent will put it there. And then the next defender, Mamoswine. I'm putting Mamoswine S tier personally. So this is mostly solo, duo, trio. But I do think there's an argument to be made that Mamoswine might be the best defender in 5 stacks even, especially if you're doing a pick ban system where, you know, only one team gets Snorlax. You can argue that. But in solo, duo, trio, I think Mamoswine is easily the best defender right now. Rapid Fire Scarf was so good for this character. You can just CC people and just chain freeze them so they're not able to play the game. It's very tanky. It doesn't die. You put out a ton of damage. Your combos are great. I don't think the character is broken. I just think it's very good. It is a really, really, really good defender. And yeah, it's in a really good spot in the game. I think Mamoswine is awesome. I love it. I absolutely love Mamoswine. We'll go ahead and put Slowbro also in A-B+ range. Actually, no, we'll put, I think it's disrespectful to put Slowbro in B, but I don't think it's as good as Blastoise. I don't think it provides as much to a team. I think Surf is still really good for crowd control. Scald is great. It's very tanky. But it just doesn't provide the same sort of, you know, all around great teams. You know, it just doesn't do as much for a team totally as Mamoswine or Blastoise. Like, it's still good. It's more of a carry than a true defender, I'd say, unless you run Telekinesis, which I think is bad because Amnesia is one of the better moves in the game. So yeah, we'll do that. All right, Snorlax. If we're basing it off 5 stacks, it's S tier. If we're basing it off solo, duo, trio, I think it's closer to B. So and since we have been doing, you know, mostly solo, duo, trio, I'm gonna split the difference and put it A-B+. I think Snorlax is still a very gimmicky Pokemon in that it's super reliant on your teammates. In solo queue, I think it's a goddamn borderline liability. But in, you know, at even 3 stacks, Snorlax can be really good, you know, just setting up plays for your team. It is the definition of a, like, supporty defender. You're there to set up moments for your team, to, you know, block people off a goal, to block people into your team, to stun people with a heavy slam, so your carries can, you know, either secure an objective or secure a big KO. Like, that's what Snorlax is there for. I think it's, like I said, a borderline liability in solo queue, but for with any sort of coordination, Snorlax is absolutely phenomenal. So we're gonna split the difference of up here in 5 stacks, down here in solo, to right here for just in the middle. So yeah, Snorlax, really good Pokemon, but this totally depends on where you're playing it. And then last but not least, we will go ahead and put Trevenant also in A-B+ range. It's not really a character that ever sees any play in 5 stacks because of how good Mamoswine and Snorlax are. But I think we're very close to a Trevenant meta. Just a couple of tweaks, maybe a Mamoswine nerf away from Trevenant being insane, especially with all of the auto attackers in the game right now. Trevenant's ult is so good. It has such great sustain. I think we're very, very close to Trevenant being a meta defender. It's just not quite there yet, but it's still a great Pokemon for solo, duo, trio. Still a great carry defender. Like, you put out a ton of damage with this character. You put out a ton of, you know, healing, just displacement as well with Horned Leech. I think Trevenant is in a great place. And we'll go ahead and hop into supporters. Blissey's still S tier, let's be real. I don't want to put it there, but it kind of just is. Like, it is the best supporter in the game still. Just pumps out a ridiculous amount of healing. Safeguard is great if you want that for specific matchups. It still has a phenomenal Unite move to just keep a carry alive, or, you know, just even delete an entire enemy team by ulting said carry. Like, Blissey is still just the best support, I think. Clef. I think Clef is kind of still in the buff me tier, the buffs please tier. I think it might be. And it's weird. Yeah, I'm gonna put Clef in the buffs please tier. Because it's not that it's horrible, it's better for like, I think it's a great duo queue, you know, supporter, but Blissy's literally just better at just pocketing like an all-arounder and healing it all game. Blissy's or Clefable is good for that in that you can heal a whole team with Moonlight if you want to, but I think Gravity is very situational. Doesn't really provide a ton if the enemy team, you know, isn't ready for it. Follow Me is kind of bait. Its Unite move is trash. I think its Unite move is really, really bad. Does it need buffs though, or is it just? I'll put it in B tier. Yeah, I think that's probably closer to where it is. In all honesty, like it's fine. It's just, man, is it just not Blissey? Does Blissey just outclass it? It's kind of the old Eldegoss situation where every other supporter just outclassed Clefable in that, you know, or outclassed Eldegoss, as at least it used to be, and we're kind of in the same place with Clef right now, where it doesn't do as much healing as Blissey, it doesn't provide as much shields as some other characters. It's just, it's good. It's just whatever. Speaking of Eldegoss though, I think Eldegoss is A tier. I think it's the best solo queue support by far. Not great in team play, but you just pump out a ton of damage with this Pokemon, and you are constantly, you know, amongst the highest damage dealers on your team, constantly pumping out auto attacks. It's so fun. Really good Unite move, good heals from Pollen Puff. Leaf Tornado is still great. All four of Eldegoss's moves are phenomenal and interchangeable with any ability you want to play with. I think Eldegoss is great, and it's borderline S tier for me. I love the Pokemon, but I'm not quite gonna put it into S tier. I think it's phenomenal. Hoopa I will put in the buffs please tier. I actually don't think Hoopa's all that bad right now. I just think it needs maybe a little bit of a buff to the shield on Trick, or maybe the movement speed from Trick. Maybe a little slight damage tweak to Shadow Ball would help. That would actually help a lot. Just giving Shadow Ball just the tiniest bit more damage would be pretty cool. And then the other build, I think Phantom Force is fine. Phantom Force is really gimmicky. You can run it with Trick, and that you can, or not Trick, you can run it with Shadow Ball, or no, it is Trick. Yeah, you can run it with Trick, and you can do some cool stuff where you can like tether to a teammate. Like, it's not bad, but normally it's just ran with Hyperspace Hole to get back without having to use your cooldown on your ability, on your stick ability thing. So you don't really need to do anything with that, but you definitely need to do something with Hyperspace Hole, whether that's buffing base healing again, which I think is not going to happen. Maybe just make it even faster of a cooldown. That would probably help a little bit. Like, give the move itself a lower cooldown, and also the, you know, Link your teammates can use it. That would be a step in the right direction. I think its Unite move's fine. I think its Unite move's still really good. And its auto attacks are great. I think it's another character that's super slept on with Rapid Fire Scarf. So I don't think Koopa's that far away from being pretty decent again, but just, you know, a couple slight changes to a couple of its moves, and I think it's kind of back where it's been. Mr. Mime is still, I don't know if it's S tier. In 5 stacks, it's still S tier. In solo queue, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played a Mime solo queue game in a very long time, just because I'm super burnt out on the character and I never want to see it again. I'm still gonna put it A tier. It's probably closer to S if we're being honest, but still really good Unite move, still great stuns. Yeah, I mean, I think it's still S tier. I really do. I hate that it is, but I don't see any reason it wouldn't still be good. Yeah, the damage is lower than it used to be, the healing is lower than it used to be, but it's still good. It still does its job. So yeah. I don't want to talk about this Pokemon. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. Aside from Peak Greedent, Release Greedent, there's not been a character I've hated more than Sableye. Except for, actually, no, okay. My 3 most hated Pokemon are Sableye, Greedent, and Mew, in terms of how broken I think they are. Not in that particular order, but man, do I hate Mew as well. But dude, I think Sableye is just, it is the most unfun character they've ever made. It's just completely unplayable against. I know they've reined it in a little bit since release, and that's mostly on damage, but the problem with Sableye is not the damage, it's the fucking stuns. It's the amount of crowd control this character has. The cooldown nerf to confuse rate is fine, but confuse rate is still strong as shit. Like, you're still stunning people for like 2 or 3 seconds or however long the stun is. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then on top of that, like, you can't move with that, and then also its passive makes it so you can't move either. Like, the character plays the game more for you than you do for you. It's I hate Sableye. Its Unite move is really gimmicky, but when you land one, it's cool. Oftentimes your teammates won't actually let them go back to base. So yeah, I think its Unite move is fine. I think it had potential to be one of the most broken things in the game's history, but thankfully it's not actually that crazy. Shadow Sneak is still stupid. The fact that it's invisible the entire game, there needs to be like a range, like it should not be able to be invisible for as long as it is, or get it on such a long or quick cooldown. I think Sableye is, it needs to be deleted from. If I know a lot of people say that characters need to be deleted from the game, or just completely nerf. I truly think they need to take Sableye out of the game and completely rework it. That's how broken I think this character is. Just on a game design level to everything else in this game, I think it is just ridiculous. I think any AoE damage should knock this thing out of invisibility, but it doesn't. Like, I hate it. I hate Sableye. I hate Sableye. I hate it. Wiggly, I'm gonna put in B tier. I do think it's better than Clef though, but we're not really ranking them against each other. I'll put a B- or B+. I think Wiggly is in a weird spot where it's legitimately not a support. I think it is actually pretty much just a defender. It only really provides any team support when it's uniting, which it does get its Unite move a lot now, which is cool. Sting is fine, rollout's good, but I think it's mostly a defender. I think, yeah, if you're comparing it to other defenders, I will go ahead and put a B tier. I'll go ahead and put a B tier. I don't think it's amazing. I think Double Slap and Dazzling Gleam are both solid, just nothing special, and that's kind of what I think about the whole character, just nothing special. Let's get on to attackers now. A9, 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 A9. I'm putting A9 in A- B+ range. I think A9 is quite good. It's a great lane attacker, really good with rapid fire scarf. I think the freeze build is still solid, but obviously the Aurora Veil build is crazy right now. But I just think there are more consistent lane attackers. It's a Pokemon that struggles a little bit late game. It struggles a little bit with bulkier teams, but you still do put out a lot of damage. You just don't really have any, great burst or great secure outside of your Unite move. So I think it's a fine Pokemon, but nothing too crazy. Cinderace is absolutely broken. I've been saying this for months, that Cinderace was never bad. And even though it was, some people would put it down in tiers, Cinderace was never bad. And they add a rapid fire scarf to the game. Cinderace is absurd, insane, absolutely insane Pokemon. Yeah, Blaze Kick is absolutely broken. The fact that it stuns people is just stupid. Yeah, rapid fire scarf is crazy. I don't really have much else to say. Cram, I'm gonna put Cram B tier, and that's mostly because you don't get as much value out of Dive Air Slash as you used to when Cram was the best jungler in the game for like a solid couple of weeks when emblems first came out. When Black 7 was first a thing, Cram was absolutely overpowered. Then they reined in Cram, they reined in Black emblems, so it's not as good as it used to be. Dive is just not what it was. Its Unite move is okay. Surf Hurricane is kind of bad. Like, I don't think it's a great build. I think it's kind of hard to land, but if you can land the full combo, you're doing good damage. I just think, why would you play Cram when you could play any other mage? I think it's good, just not great. Decidueye, same kind of thing. I think it's pretty good with Rapid Fire Scarf, but I think Decidueye is amongst the worst player bases in the game as well. Stop uniting. Stop fucking using your Unite move on objectives. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Never, ever, ever, ever do it. Ever. It is the worst play any Decidueye can make. If I remember, I'm going to insert a clip of a Decidueye ulting a full health Rayquaza with 5 people alive from our jungle for no fucking reason. So if I remember, that's going to be right here. I think the character is good. It's just no one knows how to play it. Your Unite move is not made for objective fights. Your Unite move is really only made for starting off a fight, trying to pick off a squishy if your team catches someone out. Your Unite move, even then, Spirit Shackle's better for that. Your Unite move is for, full teams pushing a goal. Your Unite move is for keeping teams from pushing into your team. Like, your Unite move is not for objectives. That is what your auto attacks are for. And if you're playing Razor Leaf, that is also what your auto attacks are for. If you're playing Razor Leaf, you're not the secure, you're the shred. You need someone else to secure for you. It's still not your Unite move, because if you're Unite moving point blank, here's the thing with the Sidgewise Unite move, it doesn't do damage the closer you are. It does more damage the further away you are. Well, that's why I ult from the spawn. That's why I ult from my side of the map. Okay, the entire enemy team can just body block the entire fucking thing, and you don't have, it doesn't pierce like your Spirit Shackle does, which is the best secure move in the game. I cannot possibly explain to you how brain dead it is for a Decidueye to Unite move across the map to try to secure objectives. Stop fucking doing it. Stop it. Now that's out of the way. The rest of the character is pretty good. Rapid Fire Scarf is absolutely nutty on the character. Razor Leaf is really good with Rapid Fire Scarf. But like I said, you're not secure with that build. Shadow Sneak is still really good. I think the character is fine. You just have to know how to pick your spots and know when to go in, what kind of characters you can and can't fight a 1v1 against. You just have to really learn your limits with the situation. But once you do, the character is phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal characters, Delphox is the best jungler in the game right now, except for maybe Scyther and Cinderace. I think this Delphox is absolutely phenomenal, especially in solo duo trio play. Just the cooldowns you get, the amount of times you can spam your Unite move, the mobility you get from Flame Charge is absolutely insane. If you're gonna play it in lane, like, just get your levels early. I think it's a really bad early game laner, but once you get Delphox, you're just kind of skating around the map, constantly just putting out damage. So huge fan of Delphox. Just, I don't know, it's another character that people play weird, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Duraludon. I think Duraludon, after the Dragon Pulse and Dragon Tail nerfs, isn't as good as it was. It was like way up here when Rapid Fire Scarf first came out. I think it might still be A tier, maybe. Nah, I think it's definitely in the A plus half of this for sure. But its damage doesn't feel super significant right now, and the Dragon Pulse damage nerf did kind of affect it. The Dragon Tail nerf definitely did. The Unite move is still fine. Like, it's still good at ripping objectives, just not as good as it was. I don't know. I don't think it's broken. I think people have figured out how to deal with it to some extent, but it's still a really good Pokemon. Espeon. I'll put it in B tier, but that's very reluctant. I think Espeon is kind of bad, but I think Psyshock's good. I think the resets you can get from, what is it, Future Sight are fun, but I don't think the character's all that great. Still a bad Unite move. It's just, I don't know, it's a worse in every way. You know, Gardevoir is a worse Sylveon, even it's a worse Pikachu, it's a worse Mew. Worse than A9. I don't know. I don't think it's that good personally. Speaking of Gardevoir, I'll put it also in A- B+ with actually pretty close to A personally, but I don't think it's, I don't know. I think it's still probably the worst laner in the game early game. I think lane Ralts is absolutely terrible, but there are way better junglers than it, so I get why people are forced to play it in lane. But I think jungle Gardevoir is really good. I don't know. It's not looked at as a jungler largely, even though when it's played competitively, it's only ever seen in jungle. So yeah, maybe, you know, people playing in solo duo should, you know, maybe figure out that Gardevoir is a jungler. But yeah, it's a super weak laner, but once you do get your moves and do get online, do get leveled up, you are pretty good. Very solid ultimate. Moonblast is still one of the most broken stuns in the game. You pump out a lot of damage with the character. It's a very mid to late game character, but it's, I don't know, there are better junglers than it, and I think there are better late game characters in it as well. So it's perfectly fine where it is though. Glaceon, I think Glaceon's actually pretty underrated right now. I don't know if I'll go as far as putting it A tier, but it's another Pokemon that's definitely in the A- range. Definitely does a lot of damage still. It's another Pokemon that people will just chuck its Unite move for no reason. And that's not really how you should use it. I think Icicle Spear and Icy Wind are both solid right now. So just pick your poison. I don't think it's as good of a character as it used to be, because you are forced to do some run some specific items if you do want to have your and emblem builds for that matter, if you do want to have your permanent Icy Winds. But I don't know, I think it's still a fine Pokemon, pretty decent with Rapid Fire Scarf as well. So I don't think Glaceon's bad. Greninja, I think Greninja's pretty good right now. Rapid Fire Scarf again made this Pokemon pretty solid, very decent. Ultimate Surf's good, Water Shuriken's decent. I think everything about Greninja is just fine. Really good hyper carry as always. So yeah, keep it up there. Mew, I think Mew is finally in a place where it's not overpowered, but it's still good. So happy for Mew that it's not, you know, the bane of my existence anymore, but still a very good character. Obviously still a really good early game, even though its damage has been reined in a little bit. The nerfs to agility have actually proven to be quite effective at actually making the character less mobile. It's yeah, it's still good though. The surf damage nerf is nice, so I think Mew's in a good place, but still very solid. Pikachu I think is always going to be like middle of the pack or really good, and I think currently it's somewhere in the middle. You know, really good stuns. If you're playing, you know, against something like a Dodrio or a Scyther, you can, you know, really shut down the enemy team with big stuns. Otherwise, Thunderbolt's still good. Unite move spam is always going to be good. So also one of the best early games in all of Unite. So I think Pikachu's still fine. Sylveon, Sylveon's a tough one. I'm gonna put Sylveon in A- B+ as well. I realize I'm putting a lot of attackers here, but I think they're all kind of decent for the most part right now. Not too many of them are broken, but not many of them are bad either. So I think that's fine for Sylveon. Definitely good. Has a really piss poor early game like all of the EVs, but Hyper Voice is still strong as hell. Mystical Fire's in a decent place at the moment. Calm Mind, and yeah, Sylveon's just good. It's one of the tankier attackers, so that's worth noting. Venusaur is the tankiest attacker, and I think Venusaur is a solid A-tier mon, still good in lane, one of the best junglers in the game, but will never really be looked at as an elite jungler because people don't really play it like that. But if you're, you know, solo queue, you want to run a Venusaur in the jungle, it is one of the best carries of the game. Just get ahead on Venusaur, start pedal dancing through teams and just winning and not dying. Like, Venusaur is really good at, you know, just it is a very good solo queue Pokemon. Still decent in team fights or in, you know, coordinated play, but you know, it's a little experience hungry in 5-stack, so that's why it's not really seen there as often as it used to be. But a very solid Pokemon nonetheless. And yeah, Solar Beam's fine, good Unite move. But we are finally here to Dragapult, and where are we gonna put this guy? I think Dragapult is really good. I think since the gym locks, it might be the best Pokemon they've released without being overpowered. Because I don't think it's broken by any means. In my community tab, I did a poll on it. Most of you guys agreed with that sentiment, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you guys on the tier you all voted for, and I'm gonna put Dragapult A. I think it's borderline S tier. I think in the right scenario and in the right against the right team comps, you can absolutely consider this Pokemon S tier. Absolutely broken with Scarf, one of the best auto attackers in the entire game, probably the best pure auto attacker in the game, because Cinderace's autos are just really strong, but Dragapult's entire kit revolves around its auto attacks, which I think is super fun. I think Dragon Dance is good, but not great. I think Dragon Breath is good, not great. Shadow Ball, I think, is a little bit underwhelming, but Phantom Force is obviously this thing's bread and butter. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. The amount of attack speed you get from it. I think Dream and Destroy, its quote-unquote Unite move, is also phenomenal for executing targets. If you're near someone and they're running away from you, but if they're in range of, you know, your Unite, just press it and they'll die. I think Dragapult is really good, but just slightly lower than S tier, just ever so slightly. So yeah, we'll go ahead and give it the A tier. I think it's like I said, one of the best releases they've had since gym locking Pokemon. How do you beat Dragapult though? If you're struggling with it, just run at it. Seriously, just run at it. It has kind of piss poor mobility. It does have invisibility, sort of like Sableye, but it doesn't last forever. It only lasts for a few seconds. Obviously, it can get resets and continue to do that, but by the time like anything catches up to it, like if you catch up to it as a T-Tar or a Mamoswine, Dragapult is just dead. So that's why where Dragon Dance comes in to give you a little bit more mobility, but you're doing less damage. So yeah, Dragapult I think is a very good Pokemon. It's just walk at it, stun it, any sort of thing, and it's, you know, less good. Now, all of this out of the way, we have our different tier, which is going to be our best Pokemon in the game at the moment, and it's kind of hard for me to differentiate between a few different Pokemon. So who do I think are the... I'm gonna go ahead and put two Pokemon up here. It's gonna be Scyther and it's gonna be Sableye. I think Sableye, just like I said, I think it needs to be removed from the game and just completely reworked. I think it's completely busted. I think Scyther is just really strong right now. If you don't know what you're doing against a Scyther, the Pokemon just absolutely destroys teams. And if you haven't seen, you know, some Scythers do some crazy shit, look up some clips on Twitter, look up some gameplays. Scyther's nuts. It's not really a team game or team 5 Pokemon. Oh, that's not true. My buddy Galadite's on a team and he's seen it in some 5 stacks and it's been messed up by it. But I haven't really seen too many Scythers in tournaments. But yeah, the character is absolutely nuts. Have fun with it. Go check it out. I think it's going to get nerfed very, very soon. So yeah, here is my tier list. Let me know what you agree or disagree the most with, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys. Appreciate you. Peace.